sunshiny personality of the one and only Nikki Chavanelle joining us, the managing editor of HawgBeat, covering all things Arkansas athletics, part of the Rivals Network. Nikki, good morning. One day, less than a day after the end of the college football season, I felt like it was just a success to make it to the end of the college football season, because what would have these last few months been like without it?
You know, definitely feeling grateful that we got through as many games as we did, and I was just trying to soak up every last second of last night, knowing that it's going to be a long 8 months or so until we start seeing football again, in college ranks at least.
Well, you and I were on the same page as far as the spread was concerned. When we put our picks together, I thought I'd see Alabama win by 10. I did think that Ohio State would be able to keep up with them for more than the first quarter, and maybe losing Trey Sermon is a humongous reason why Ohio State couldn't keep up. But you and I were on the same page there. Apparently, Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide were not.
Yeah, they were just so dominant all season, and I had watched a lot more of Alabama than I had of Ohio State. And, I mean, Alabama played so many more games than Ohio State even, so they were just, more prepared for the situation, and the talent obviously is huge at Alabama. I remember the Ohio State site reached out to me. They were getting, takes from all the teams that had played Arkansas and or that had played Alabama, and I was just like, yeah, I don't see how Ohio State can really stop them. They did get that one pick that was big time, but they just couldn't keep up with them offensively.
And of course, Alabama's going to lose a lot of the talent that got them to the national championship. You did have some players stick around that they could have declared for the draft last year, but it's just year in, year out with the recruiting, not just from them, but from, Ohio State, from Georgia. It really is. It's the same suspects every single year. And that is, to me, that's a detriment to college football. I wonder what your opinion is.
I did think that as well, but I saw, a post earlier today that every single one of Nick Saban's recruiting classes has been or won a national championship. So when you look at that, it's like, how can you expect other schools to compete when you're just going to continue recruiting the best kids around, and you have a coach that is constantly bringing in the top coaches around the country, and even has some of the best coaches in the country just helping out on his staff.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now you turn the page to the start of the off season, and for Arkansas, for everybody else, you have your early enrollees, you have your players that are that have already announced that they will return using the extra year of eligibility. Kind of map out what the next couple of weeks are like for Sam Pittman's program.
Yeah, well, from what I know, the guys, they start lifting again, they start workouts, and they just get acclimated to the program before we get closer to spring football. But we don't know what any of that looks like. I'm still hoping we get to talk to Sam Pittman sometime soon so we can ask him about how Kenny Guyton was hired, and we'd love to hear about all these battles to keep his position coaches as well.
Well, so losing Justin Stepp to South Carolina, I guess we don't know necessarily about how Guyton recruits, but losing Stepp is a blow for recruitment, because that was one thing that guy is an absolute ace on.
Yeah, definitely. He had a really good connection with a lot of, high school coaches down in Texas from his time at SMU, and that was an area that, now they have Kendall Briles, so it's not that big of a deal, but Stepp was really big recruiting Texas, and but he has sent out over 60 wide receiver offers to kids in the 2022 class, so at least he has gotten the ball rolling with a lot of prospects for Kenny Guyton to come in and just continue relationships. So that's nice. At least he's kind of laid a lot of groundwork down. But with a lot of these kids not having visited many schools at all, and especially not Arkansas. It is going to be a big test, but I don't think Justin Stepp had those really solidified relationships quite yet with many of the young guys. So Kenny Guyton just has a lot of his own work to do, I think.
Well, and there is one wide receiver who's already decided out of Arkansas he's going to go to Florida State, top prospect in the state for the 2022 class, Quincy McAdoo out of Clarendon. Was this one that caught you by surprise? Obviously, you get an Arkansas connection with Mike Norvell as the head coach, but it seemed to take people in the state by surprise. What did you think?
I was surprised by the timing of it. Our analyst, Sam Spiegelman, he had put in a pick for Florida State a couple of months ago, and I had thought Arkansas was trending in a better direction as McAdoo, took in more of the Razorbacks this season, and continued to grow his relationship with Justin Stepp. But then Stepp left, and he immediately committed to Florida State. And in the back of my mind, I have to wonder if he had someone like Stepp, having to tell him no, having to tell him that he's not coming to Arkansas, not having to do that probably made it a lot easier to make that decision. But I was surprised that he made it so early, although he had already narrowed it down to 5. It just seems like that's where he wants to be. And I'm not even sure if he has visited there in person, but he really likes what those guys are doing. So I guess we just have to, respect the decision and see what happens as Kenny Guyton gets involved in recruiting him more.
That's the greatest phrase it's like with kids signing, respect my decision. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do anymore. Nikki Chavanelle joining us here on Halftime. Nikki, we've had some recruiting news coming across as far as Arkansas getting offers out to a few of these kids. Tell us a little bit about Caden Green. He recently received an offer from the University of Arkansas.
Yeah, they just offered 2 linemen over in Missouri, both at the same school, Lee Summit North, I believe. One in the 2022 class, one in the 2023 class. But Coach LeBlanc, the D-line coach, he has offered 6 defensive tackles in the past couple days. So I guess they looked at the board and they realized we need some more offers out there. So I think they're just kind of taking a look now that they're all back. I think they were out of the office the last week or last couple of weeks. So they're just shoring up where they think they need a little bit of a wider look at these kids. But I just don't see a whole lot of movement right now because there aren't visits. There's just not a rush. So I was surprised by McAdoo, but I'm not seeing a rush to commit by many other kids.
Got a couple texts in here, then I'll pass it back over to Phil. Harry Dog and Fable wants to know, see if you think, will Pittman go after one of the Auburn defensive line guys that's in the portal? Do you think, and we can kind of phrase it this way because I'm not entirely sure how much room the staff has to get with as far as more defensive line talent, but we'll answer his question. Do you think that they can go after some of these Auburn defensive linemen in the transfer portal?
Right. So they already got one of the 4 spots that Sam Pittman said that they have for transfers, and 3 of those will be borrowing forward from next year's class. So it's still, a decision to have to do that. It's not like the spot is open. They will have to count it towards next year, but they can do that 3 at a time. And I think they said they wanted 1 more offensive lineman and 2 defensive linemen. So, yes, I absolutely think that once those guys popped up in the portal, they reached out. I think Big Cat Bryant's in there. I don't know the other one off the top of my head, but I wouldn't be surprised if they reached out to just gauge interest every single defensive lineman with experience in the portal.
Well, I think when you look at Arkansas, particularly in the position that they are, and you look at a guy like Big Cat Bryant coming out of Auburn, at least with Arkansas, Nikki, he has a chance to play right away and play for a good period of time here for Arkansas, whether if he goes to, say, Alabama, in my opinion, you get 1 shot and that's it.
Yeah, with Jonathan Marshall going to the NFL draft, we know for sure that there's at least 1 spot on the defensive line that is wide open, but they also want some pass rush as well. So I would expect 1 interior defensive lineman and maybe 1 outside And yeah, Big Cat's obviously at the top of the list, but it all depends because a lot of these schools are going to be able to offer immediate playing time. It's about what he wants to accomplish in his last year.
Nikki, your colleague Andrew Hutchinson got a big award yesterday. The National Sports Media Association has named him the Arkansas Sports Writer of the Year, which is no surprise when you know how thorough he is and how hard he works. And I know you probably know him better than most other media members. So now's your chance to laud your coworker for a well-deserved award.
Yeah, I was so incredibly happy and proud of him. He told me that in, 70 years of the award, he's one of the youngest to have ever won it, with names like Orville Henry, who is on the press box at the stadium, I believe. So really huge deal, and I know for him, where this is his home, this means everything to him, and he wants, to be the guy in the state that people look to for Arkansas sports news, and I know he's one of those people already, but I think this just helps him even more with that goal, and so happy for him. He definitely deserves it, and I think he's the first to win it who isn't associated with a print publication. So, us online people, we got it too.
That was what I wanted to mention. I mean, it's nobody needs. You guys don't need to feel validated for what you do because you guys work your butts off and do great work at HawgBeat. But when one of your people wins an award like that and is the first to do it without a print edition, I feel that really does say something about HawgBeat.
And where we are in 2021, what an age we're living in.
That's right. Paper, who needs it? Nikki, we need you, though, so stay with us next Tuesday. Thanks for all you do.
Thanks, Nikki.
You got it, guys. Bye.